But he also needs to understand that there's a lot of demand on the coach and on the player. So today football may not allow those gifted as from the question number one. But to answer this question, my opinion is about resilience. Resilience in the sense that when you go to Europe, that weather is really harsh. And there are lots of do's and don'ts. When we are here in Africa and Uganda in particular, where people are enjoying the weather, they're doing this, they're not doing the other, and in Europe it is always strict and strict and strict. You don't do it, however gifted, however intelligent in the game of football, you are not going to survive. I had a chance to play with the late Majid Musi. He was really resilient. That the coaches then were good, like the coaches today probably are good, and it's all about the individual person, the player himself. If he says, I want it...
Are you trying to say that the coach has no impact?
He has, and I'm saying the coach has to do a lot about the player. Where he said the small-sided games, the coaches have been doing that, but the players haven't been succeeding. I was asking a colleague that where are our under-20 players who qualified with the Mole Equals? Where are they? What happened? Why can't we have one in Europe? And that's why I'm saying probably the resilience, the ability to say, you go out in the cold. I was sharing with the Ibrahim Secretary, I'm sorry to take a lot of time. He went to Italy, and the coach, but then he went to Italy from Argentina. It was so cold, and the coach noticed him and told him, you go back to the hotel, you are not going for training. But he persevered and he broke through, and so it goes to that individual resilience, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you so much, Moses. It doesn't take away, I think you have...
But he trains individuals to become a certain profession. There is a lot of lack of monitoring and follow-up on players for individual growth and accustoming them to what you would want them to be. Many times we take players out there when they are not ready. Readiness is not only playing football, but there are also so many other aspects around them. Their discipline off the field. Self-discipline is a big problem to the players. You throw them out there, they would say, but during my times, children would come from Gayaza, because we are mainly men. Gayaza High School are protected by the institution. When they get to campus, they see a lot of freedom and they can do anything. Now, a lot of off-the-field behavior can affect the performance of a player out there. So that self-discipline, the follow-up and monitoring, preparing the talent, for us to be sure that we are taking a ready product and we are molding somebody into a better individual as far as football is concerned, is I think also very key for us to look at, on top of the other things that others have mentioned.
Okay, thank you very much. What I was trying to say is I always want to tell the house on what I see. Now our problem is social and psychological factors. That means it has a lot to do with attitude. People believe that football is played by the poor. When a rich man has an opportunity or has a son who plays good football, you say rich men, people don't play football. So the problem is within us. And the wise will tell you that if you want to play in Europe, you have to behave like us. Now when you have a problem with social and psychological, how will you play like them? So I think that's what we need to know very much about it.
Is the problem. Uganda is too good that players don't have the ambition. They can't resist the temptations and hardness that is there in professional football. Like you rightly said, we received a comment from a player who did not sign a contract because other people are eating monkeys. Not because of technical skills, but they can't resist. In Uganda, maybe food is so good, the weather is so good, the people can get $1 without working. Unlike the West African, the Nigerians. I remember when we were training at Villa one time, there's a player who came and he said, I'm on the way to South Africa. I think Coach Vassen, I remember. Whether what or what, I have to play and make sure. And he ended up in France after that. So I think Uganda should be one of the problems. It's not my opinion.
For the opportunity. I will start from what Mr. President.
Was I lying?
No, you are not. But as football players, personally me, I was in a situation of resisting, because there was a scenario that happened to me in Turkey, and I got a suspension of every game that I was going to play. They were supposed to deduct 10,000 euros from my salary. So at the end of the month, I was remaining with 2,000 euros. So I had to pay my house rent, I had to pay electricity and all that stuff. So I looked into it and I decided to, you know what, it is high time either I go back home and reset myself, or I stay here to play football without being paid. So as a footballer, you know, you need to look at certain scenarios that, you know, as a player, it's either they're going to make you a strong player, or it's either you go back home and reset and see what you will do. So I would differ away from Mr. Edgar, because as footballers, as Ugandans, because I was playing with Nigerian players, I'm telling you, Mr. President, these players, even though they don't get paid, they are committed. They will stay there. But for us, we are soft-hearted. Things are tough.
But I've most of the time been asked when I'm on interviews why Ugandan players don't make it. They go and don't stay so long. But out of the things I've come to realize, one, we have 4 pillars of football: the tactical, technical, physical, and mental. But out of the 4, Ugandan players will never be questioned about being physically fit, about being technically good, but the 2 things, the mental aspect and also the tactical awareness, is the problem. So, among things they have been talking about, Mr. Edgar, what he talked about, it follows under the mental aspect. So I think we should try to train our footballers or our kids away from childhood, how to resist, because there are so many challenges when it comes to football, especially when you're not playing home. So we tend not to resist them. So we fall victims, and in the long run, when players go, they come back. So it falls under 2 things. The tactical awareness also. For example, I would say if a coach wants a team to play a certain formation, and then maybe a player is not used to it, they would definitely know that this player has gone through all the grassroots football. So there are things they expect our players to be knowing at this level of football. So when a coach sees a player is not performing to his expectation, then he would definitely have questions why at such a level a player is not performing well. What is next? The player will be pushed out of the team. And if a player becomes a liability to the team, definitely they will say, go back home. Then the mental aspect of the game is where a player goes to a foreign land, goes under challenges and resists them, endeavors to go whatever it takes. But our players here, when they go out, they miss friends, they miss family, they miss the life in Kampala.
The nightlife.
The nightlife. And when he's paid the money, he thinks, now I have to go back home and I enjoy.
And sure.
Yeah, and they enjoy and do all that. I miss my friends or what. Eventually, he goes astray. He goes off track.
Okay.
And then that's where the problems come.
Maybe not. Members, in the interest of time, I know this is a very interesting topic that can take us a whole day. I'm only going to give Ande Mwesigwa.
Very many players, more so Africa, I will not talk about Uganda, but in Africa, don't last long at professional levels. because of some of the reasons already mentioned by my colleagues. But I have a few, actually there will be two that I will talk about. One is the background. I think for some of you that were watching NBS yesterday, I was there and I tackled some of these issues. And another thing is the education part of it. And the last one, there are three actually. The last one is the agency. With the background, it all goes to us, the parents, the way we bring up our children. Some of the children are being pampered by their parents, thinking that life will always be a pampering what? A pampering experience. You find a child, I will not give examples, but you know some of them, that some children are even being driven to training grounds on a daily basis. Some children are being given special dieties, not sports diet. And some children are being raised with groups, peer groups, that normally drive them into bad characters that end up ruining their lives. So you find that such a child, when such a child goes to a professional, he may not last. Why? Because of the background. He's being brought up in a way that, okay, if somebody is tough on him, he always say, why are you tough on me? You know, and after all, I'm a talented footballer, very skillful. So they end up crossing lines with probably maybe coaches and so on, club officials, and at the end of it all, their contracts are being terminated and they're back home. The education part of it, we all know, actually those that have played professional football, football goes beyond what we see on the ground. Most of the work is being done on board and in class. We always have classes. So for a child who is not accustomed to a classroom, it is always very hard for that child to excel. Why? Because you're being instructed to interpret exactly what has been done on board to the ground. So you find out that most of the players fail to interpret. Why? Because they are not accustomed to that environment. And this goes to the schools. I will be very strict, and I said it yesterday. Most schools have contributed a lot to this. Why? Because we are having players in schools that don't actually study. They are in school for football, only football, and it finds that such a player, once he goes for profession, he's not accustomed to what? To blackboard. You know, he doesn't mind. What about class? What about, for him, since he's talented, very skillful, he only concentrates on the skill, not knowing that football at pro level, most of the work is done by the intelligence. So that one is also another issue. And the last one is the agency. I'll be very brief. Is the agency. We know very well that all of us will never suit in leagues like England, leagues like Belgium, leagues like Spain. But some of the agencies, all in the interest of making money, they don't choose the right leagues for our players. That is a very big problem. So you find a player doesn't suit in one league, but is being forced to go to that league, you know, not with the qualities of that league. And what happened? At the end of it all, you know, he may make it and he's being sent back home. So thank you so much.
The feeding. Do we feed our players the right way? If you do research, you find that players are supposed to be given a snack before the match and also a snack after the match. The amount of water they must drink according to ages and the lengths of practices. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's where we go wrong. And maybe, last but not least, we don't have the resources. I've headed schools since 2000, 24 years as head of school. have not had books on the shelves for football. So why do the teachers get this information they give their children? How can children themselves discover this by themselves? What is the library for football? Other countries have these.
I think my point is on networking. The reason why we have failed to penetrate is we have failed to make right connections. We have people who can play good football, but may have a feeling that we have failed to get someone or people to connect with who can connect us where to go. I'll give you an example. If I had someone I know, for example, in Mbale, it becomes very easy for me to take my player that side, and that person, if he knows me, he will actually give me the opportunity. At least he will look at that player and tries to see the good in that player. So I actually think we need to have connections so that we can reach those areas.
Then is poor management, the way we manage players from the grassroots. Then skipping development stages, that's theory. You find a player of 14 years old, 17, being taken to national team, yet he or she is not ready for the level. Yeah, there are some, Mr. Coach. Then drugs. Drugs, players take drugs, and at times they fail to quit when they reach there. Then another thing, the fourth, is that adapting the Western culture, like the way we have to take ourselves. If I'm a Ugandan who's born in Katanga, I'll behave like a Katanga girl, not like someone who's a professional.
Mostly, like in West Africa, try to make research. These players have given opportunity to develop from the French colonized countries, where the colonizers have given these countries opportunity to take their players for development at a young age. But even then, when they grow there, they come back and play for their nations, and then they support the development. But also, President will also figure out that the nature of food that we eat here, the nature of environment, the weather, the moment our players have not adopted to it, when they struggle to go there, they can't make it because it changes to coldness, and it's really cold. So sometimes the bodies don't adjust quickly than when they develop while they are there.
A player should be exposed to maybe at least more than one foreign language, because we only do English in school, maybe French, maybe Spanish, because sincerely speaking, communication cannot be underestimated. Thank you so much.
A coach plays a very big role in developing a player to reach the level to attract suitors in the big market, which is the elite league. So the question we need to ask ourselves is, how much effort have our coaches done to take these players to that level? So I think the coaches have not done a lot, and not because they don't want to do, but there are a lot of different factors. One, we know very well that a lot of our coaches are not having that, advanced education, especially maybe because of the financial problem. But we don't expose our courses for updates in Europe to try to learn more about the high intensity demands of modern football. That's one. Two, the coaching approach is too team-centered. And when we are speaking about a player going abroad, we're not talking about 22 players, we're talking about one player. So when you have coaches that, that have a training content of playing 11-11, you are not supporting an individual player. Professionalism about one player is about developing that one player. And we need, the good thing we've come to this session, so we need to have an approach whereby these coaches tend to incorporate a lot of small-sided games, because as one of my colleagues mentioned, that our players don't have the chance to start football early, and we just randomly scout these players through these competitions, like name them. We already know them, Masaza, Vikan, all that stuff. So our approach needs to change to focus on the individual player, whether it is through the grassroots, whether it is through professional clubs. It is about those small groups of the field. That's where the player will get that technical support. If, let's say, if it's a striker or it's a midfield player. So coaches need to have extra time to work with units, with individual players, educate them about their roles individually, to understand what they are supposed to do in different phases of the game. And this is where some of our players have lacked that support. Whether it's technical, whether it's physical, we have failed in that area. And we are always, our coaches have also focused on, on winning. Coach Chambade mentioned that. They gave us a lot of freedom. I remember Master Utindo also, he said, Bwakalule, mukwata bukwasi mupira, oba musajja omusala, musale. So, we have coaches that are really, really focused so much on winning. And this has taken away that creativity of a young person. And we need to have that, flexibility of allowing our players to express themselves such that that creativity is not killed. Yeah, thank you very much.